American companies, officials, and high-profile celebrities continue to stay silent when it comes to China's well-documented pattern of human rights abuses. Joining me right now is Hayman Capital Management founder and Chief Investment Officer Kyle Bass. Kyle, it's great to have you this morning. Thanks so much for being with me.
Great to be here, Maria. How are you?
Good. Kyle, I want to start off on Jamie Dimon, and we heard Jamie at a panel a week ago say, well, the Communist Party is celebrating 100 years, so is J.P. Morgan. I would make a bet that J.P. Morgan outlives the Communist Party. Hours later, he retracts the statement. What do you think went on there? He apologizes that he questioned the longevity of the Chinese Communist Party.
I think that it's important to realize that J.P. Morgan does a lot of business in China, and Wall Street today gets about 12% of their revenue from China and growing. And that's the way that China forces self-censorship, just like they're doing with filmmakers, just like they're doing today with The Simpsons and Disney. That kind of self-censorship immediately must have gone to J.P. Morgan's PR department, and they forced a retraction because China probably threatened to close J.P. Morgan's business down.
Yeah, I want to ask you about what China is doing in terms of digital assets. But before we get there, what do you think the message should be to these corporations that have pretty much been given a honeypot? I mean, let's face it. You know, J.P. Morgan, Goldman Sachs, given the ability to own 100% of their firm in China, has not happened before this. Wall Street is getting these honeypots to sell to 1.4 billion Chinese. What do you think they need to understand about this quid pro quo that the CCP is giving them?
Well, I've said before, it's important to note that if U.S. national security was left up to Wall Street or the private sector for that matter, we'd all be speaking Chinese tomorrow. What has to happen here, Maria, is some administration needs to really think about what national security risks are in the United States, and we need to stop corporate self-censorship and corporate business in China if in fact China has this kind of stifling censorship effect on anything and everything that U.S. corporations and the private sector does.
Yeah, but they're making too much money in China to actually recognize and do something about these national security issues. China wants to set up a digital asset exchange in Beijing. As Chinese officials push to promote the digital yuan, look, we're not stupid. We know Beijing wants to take over the dollar, make the yuan the currency of the world. It's been working on a digital version of the currency since 2014, and a broader rollout is expected when they host the Winter Olympics come February. Your thoughts on what China is doing here with digital assets, Kyle?
Well, I think the largest risk to the U.S. national security and to the Western rules-based order is this rollout of this new currency. It's not a digital currency alone, Maria. It would be the adoption of the Chinese tech stack in America, in the West, and it enables the Chinese government to basically export digital authoritarianism all over the world. It also allows the Chinese government to have direct access to individuals and corporations all over the world outside of the view of law enforcement, outside of the view of any kind of banking or regulatory structure. They can engage in bribing and coercion directly with individuals. And I think that we need to spend a lot of time on this. You need to spend a lot of time talking about the rollout of their digital currency, because today, Maria, you know that the world doesn't accept the yuan or the RMB in exchange for almost anything. Less than 2% of global transactions settle in the yuan today. And if you peel the onion back, you realize that 1.8% or so all settles in Hong Kong. It's China trading with itself. China is desperate to roll out this digital currency in 2022. And if they are successful in pushing this out, that will enable their militaristic belligerence and their aggression all over the world, because today the U.S. holds all the cards. All of the transactions China engages with all over the world are in U.S. dollars. And we can actually sanction their banks and turn off their access to dollars. They are desperately trying to get out from under our sanctions regime so that they can operate in a world where the U.S. has less power. I think it's less about the hegemonic position of the dollar. I think it's more about China's dependence on the access to the U.S. financial system.
Well, this is all really important, the points that you're making right now, Kyle, and it's very concerning to me that we as a country tiptoe around this regime, the CCP, and yet every which way you turn, they're trying to acquire America, overtake America as the #1 superpower, and replace America's currency. And yet you don't have Joe Biden protecting this country or bringing up the origins of COVID with Xi Jinping. Nothing. We're just allowing CCP to do whatever they want. Look, China deployed 18 fighter jets and 5 bombers along with a refueling aircraft, which would help fighter planes stay in midair for longer. This was in Taiwan and the Taiwan airspace, Kyle. Aren't they telling the world what they're going to do here? Aren't they being real obvious in terms of what their plans are for Taiwan? Is anybody going to stop them?
Yeah, Maria, it's important to note that they're never going to tell us what they're really doing. I mean, just think back to when Xi Jinping was in the Rose Garden at the White House meeting with President Obama, and he said to President Obama's face, "We will not militarize the South China Sea. We're just building these islands and these 10,000-foot runways for civilian use." And the next thing you saw was you see military bases being built, missile batteries being moved there, fighters and bombers being moved to all these islands. You can't listen to what the Chinese say they're going to do or say they're doing. You actually have to realize what they are doing. And I think your point on Taiwan is perfect, and it tracks back to what Xi Jinping lied in the Rose Garden directly to the United States president, and he knew he was lying. And we don't call him out for it. And now we have Taiwan happening, and they're talking about the peaceful reunification of Taiwan is inevitable. That was basically saying Taiwan better surrender peacefully, or we're just going to take it by force. And you and I both know this is coming.
That's exactly right. And the breaking news over the weekend was that the Chinese official Hu Binchen was elected to the Interpol executive committee. One reaction was a fox is now placed in charge of watching the sheep. A disgrace that is going to increase China's abuse. And also we learned over the weekend that the CCP will acquire the largest international airport in Africa.
Well, I don't know if it was acquiring. What happens with Belt and Road loans is China's very strategic about where they're lending money and who they're lending money to. And they always overlend. And so the debtor ends up having to have its assets foreclosed. And whether it's a strategic port for Chinese military, whether it's an airport where the Chinese military can land, this is what they do. The Ugandan situation is one that will be repeated over and over and over again throughout Africa and throughout the world with their Belt and Road loans.
This is exactly what they do. They lend countries money that they know they cannot pay back the money, and then eventually say, well, forget about the loan. We'll just acquire the country, acquire the airport, acquire the infrastructure. And that's exactly what they're doing with this airport in Uganda. And it's the largest airport in Africa, Kyle. I mean, is anybody going to react to the CCP acquiring more land across the world?
Yeah, I mean, as you know, you probably know, Maria, in Djibouti, China is building a massive military base, and they have engaged in influence campaigns all over Africa. And by the way, they care about Africa for one reason. They want natural resources. They need lithium, they need rare earth metals, they need copper, they need all the basic building blocks, things that they're short themselves. And they do everything they can do to kind of take over these natural resource rich areas of Africa. And I think this kind of debt diplomacy is going to happen again for years to come.
Yep. Yeah, we've been reporting on that Djibouti military presence for years. Devin Nunes investigating that for a long time now. Kyle, it's great to catch up with you. Always a pleasure. Thanks so much for all of the work you're doing. Kyle Bass joining us this morning from Hayman Capital Management. Thank you, sir.